All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really sprawling political address that tackles one of the absolute biggest bottlenecks of our modern era. We're talking about the immense, almost unimaginable energy demand of artificial intelligence. We're going to break down a specific proposed policy designed to manage all this, because, this isn't just about computers anymore. It's about our physical electrical grid, local economies, and ultimately, our race for global supremacy.
Right out of the gate, the address sets the stakes incredibly high. The speaker essentially compares the AI revolution to the invention of the internet and then suggests it might actually be even bigger than that. So the framing here is absolute. This is being positioned as a winner-take-all global race. And falling behind? Well, apparently that's just not an option. So what is the core physical roadblock we're facing? Energy. The address claims that to actually fulfill the true potential of the AI industry, these massive data centers are soon going to require more than double the electricity the United States currently produces. I mean, let's just pause and wrap our heads around that. We're not talking about a 5 or 10% increase here. More than double our entire national power output as it stands today.
Now, since this address covers a massive amount of ground, we've broken it down into 6 clear sections to help you track the core arguments. We've got 1. AI's energy demand. 2. The Ratepayer Protection Pledge. 3. Local economic benefits. 4. The US-China AI race. 5. Energy policy and deregulation. And 6. Global policy. Let's jump in.
Starting with Section 1, AI's massive energy demand and our aging infrastructure.
To really hammer home the urgency of this energy crisis, the address points a finger straight at our current grid. The speaker characterizes it as a 200-year-old system, pointing specifically to California's regular brownouts and blackouts as proof that, hey, we can barely handle today's needs, let alone the colossal influx of power required by AI. It very purposefully sets the stage for a private sector intervention.
Moving to Section 2, the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, or the Tech Pledge. This is really the centerpiece of the whole proposal.
Under this plan, tech giants would essentially be forced to become their own utility companies. And honestly, these new data centers are just unfathomably huge. The speaker notes some are so large, you could literally fit 25 pentagons inside a single one of them. Because they need so much dedicated power, this pledge mandates that tech companies have to fund and build their own electric plants. And here's the twist. They're expected to generate excess power to feed back into the public grid. The idea is that the surplus will effectively drive down electricity rates for everyday citizens. And apparently, the buy-in for this is already massive. The speaker notes that since introducing the plan, over 220 utilities, tech companies, and state governments have signed on. According to the address, this huge coalition is already actively securing and keeping electricity rates in check for 80% of distributed American power. Okay, Section 3, claimed local economic benefits and community advantages.
The address uses a really striking comparison to highlight this claimed economic momentum. Over just the last 12 months, the speaker attributes a staggering $19.2 trillion of inbound global investment directly to this tech boom and their deregulatory environment. They contrast that really sharply with what they claim was less than $1 trillion over the entire 4 years of the previous administration.
To show what this looks like on the ground, the speaker lists some very specific examples of these massive data center deals. In Georgia, for instance, revenue from a new Google data center is supposedly allowing a community to completely eliminate their local property taxes. Imagine that! In Iowa, utility deals are letting Alliant Energy freeze consumer rates for 5 solid years. Down in Louisiana, a $27 billion Meta project is purportedly funding $50,000 bonuses for public school teachers. The core argument being made here is that local communities should absolutely be fighting to welcome these data centers, not pushing back against them.
That brings us to Section 4, the US-China AI race and geopolitical supremacy. So the narrative suddenly zooms out here. The speaker frames this domestic energy policy as a critical weapon in the race against China. The address contrasts an America First private sector strategy against China's top-down approach. The speaker points out that China builds electricity infrastructure incredibly fast because, well, they skip environmental impact statements entirely and avoid relying on what the speaker calls unreliable windmills. The core message is pretty clear. To win the AI race, the US has to remove all the roadblocks and develop at breakneck speed.
Next up, Section 5, Energy Policy and Deregulation, specifically slashing bureaucracy.
Now, this explainer wouldn't be complete without highlighting the stark partisan contrast presented in the speech.
The speaker claims political opponents, who they characterize as the radical left, want to actively limit energy consumption and rely heavily on wind power. They even threw in a joke about the wind stopping during a recent political debate, supposedly preventing people from watching it on TV. In direct contrast to that, the speaker's own vision relies on maximizing raw power output through expanding traditional sources, oil, natural gas, and what they call clean, beautiful coal.
And to actually achieve this massive energy surplus, the proposed solution is a drastically streamlined permitting process. By appointing aggressive leadership, the speaker specifically cites Lee Zeldin, the goal is to basically take a machete to environmental bureaucracy. The speaker claims this approach has already reduced regulatory approval times for building power plants from, years and years to just 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks.
Finally, Section 6, Global Policy and Broader Impacts.
As the address wraps up, it fires off a rapid sequence of broader global claims. On the military front, the speaker claims the U.S. decimated Iran's military, destroying 159 ships and 212 planes in just a brief 4-month conflict, allegedly leaving them without a navy or an air force. They also tout highly lucrative oil extraction deals with Venezuela that supposedly paid off an unnamed one-day war many times over, proudly contrasting just 18 casualties against the massive losses we've seen in past decades. And then, pivoting back to economics, they project the U.S. will soon capture 50% of the global chip market, noting major players like Toyota are already moving operations out of Mexico and back into the U.S.
Then, right before wrapping up the policy remarks, we get this completely surprising, brief detour into baseball. Recounting an upcoming White House visit from the World Championship Dodgers, the speaker marvels at a historic performance where a player pitched a near-perfect game while also hitting 3 home runs. They point out that not even the legendary Babe Ruth accomplished a feat quite like that. It's a very colorful, unexpected cultural tangent right before the grand finale.
So, based on everything we've unpacked in this explainer today, we want to leave you with this final thought. The AI revolution is demanding power on a scale humanity has literally never seen. As Silicon Valley steps in to build its own massive power plants, essentially becoming our new utility providers, who ultimately controls the future of America's infrastructure? Does privatizing the grid protect everyday consumers like the pledge suggests, or does it permanently shift the balance of power into the hands of a few tech giants?